The report of the Police Reform Committee and its recommendations. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the Executive Director, African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development, Dr. Otive Ibuzo. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Right, there are a number of recommendations, but let's just go straight to look at some of the key aspects of this report that has been sent. The committee is against the creation of state police at a time when the call for it is the loudest or the greatest. What's your take on that?
If you look at the statement of the chairman of the committee, and if you look at it against the background of the terms of reference, it will be clear that the terms of reference was not to look at whether there should be state police or not. So what they have done, what the committee has done, is to show how the present structures will be made to work effectively. I think the main argument is not really that whether there should be state police or not, but that even the constitutional structures that have been put in place for policing in the country has not really worked. So you need to and the chairman made it clear that that will be able to douse the agitation, for state police. My view clearly is that in the final analysis, if we want to really practice true federalism in Nigeria, there is the need for creation of state police. But in the interim, and I agree with the committee completely on that, there is the need for the constitutional structures to be able to perform their duties. The Police Council, the Police Service Commission, and the Nigeria Police Force to improve the security of the country.
So by calling for the scrapping of the Ministry of Police Affairs, for instance, is that an example of how ineffective policing, welfare, and etc., which we have on ground, is that an example of how it's going to be restructured to make it better?
Well, I think the recommendation for the scrapping of the Ministry of Police Affairs is just, contingent on the argument of the committee that the institutional mechanisms, institutions for governance of the police has not really worked. And I think that, the committee also made that point, that there has been several committee reports, and my own understanding, of the policing in Nigeria and the various reports that have been produced in the past, including Mandami report, including MD Yusuf report, is the fact that this present committee's report introduced some new key elements. First is the issue of institutionalization of the governance structure for performance. Second is the question of professionalism of the police. And third, and I think for me, that is actually even the most important, is the calling for the establishment of an implementation framework. Because, what we are seeing in the country is that several committees have been set up in the past, but their recommendations were not implemented. And that is why when the Paris Osayende committee was set up, it was met with a lot of cynicism, especially from civil society. And I think the main argument that the committee is making is that there is the need for the institutions that have been set up according to the Constitution should be made to work. And the major emphasis is on the Police Council, which is made up of the President, the governors, the chairman of the Police Service Commission, and the Inspector General of Police.
Okay, let me just stop you there. There was something in there.
There
in
may
the
not be need for Ministry of Police Affairs. But what you have presently is that it appears as if it is the Ministry of Police Affairs that is doing the work of the Police Council. So clearly, the present structure has not worked. So there is the need, in my view, for some kind of reform.
Okay, I was just trying to stop you there to ask about something that we also noticed. The idea of allowing the police to prepare its own budget and to determine its own spending. Do you see that as, with what we have on ground right now, do you see that as a way of ending some of the issues that we have with the force already?
From the arguments of the committee, I think it's very clear that, you know, the person who wants to make an expenditure, the person who is conversant with operations, the needs of the people. For instance, the present situation is such that if the police want to do training, it's the Ministry of Police Affairs that will do this training. I mean, we do the contract, we select the trainers and all of that. And the committee's report is saying that the person who needs the training should be able to determine, you know. And I think there is a lot of sense in that argument. But it's not just, in my view, it's not just a question of saying instead of Ministry of Police Affairs, it should be the IGP. But mechanisms and systems needs to be put in place so that if training is needed, training needs assessment will be done, you know, the appropriate training agencies will be gotten, and then there will be clear delivery of those training. But clearly what we have seen is that in the past few years, the present structure has not worked to bring about operational efficiency within the Nigeria Police Force.